Hello people, two people watching me now. Thank you for coming by. I do actually have quite a few things to say. I suppose I've had a very pleasant morning, and these were happy discoveries. It's sort of stuff that I'd kind of done and forgotten I'd done, and just sort of happy discoveries about, people saying things about me, and I think, wow, that's really nice. That's so cool. And of course, I must praise dear Jen, whose week in review produced such happy thoughts and emotions for me. So, as you know, I find week in review unmissable, even though she won't let me on anymore, and she won't let me post in the chat, even though I let her post anything she likes on my streams, and I let her come on too, until she gets so disruptive that I had to end the stream, as I did the other day. But it's not reciprocated. I have to understand, and I do forgive her, and just because she's given me so much fun and so many ideas, and I really am grateful to her. And I know she hates me, and, that is, a sad thing for me, because, obviously I don't want her to hate me, but and I am grateful to her for the many, many ideas that she gives me, and the many opportunities that she's put my way. So, I'm, I just want to preface what I'm about to say, with that. Oh dear, have I don't know if I'm still connected. I think I might have clicked something wrong. Oh no, it's all right. It's all right. I'm still live. I thought, because I closed the window of the stream. So we're all right. You're all here. Hello, Dr. Mengele. I'm glad you're talking about Marks and Spencer's, Dr. Mengele. I know you have one down under, don't you? You have Marks and Spencer's down under where you are. Let me just check out how many you have in Oz. Marks and Spencer, Australia. I want it to do well. I mean, I really think Marks and Spencer's is a shop I feel immense loyalty for. So I suppose younger people won't understand that, but what do they know, eh? What do they know? So, how many Marks and Spencers do you have in Oz? The website's just taking me to the London one. How annoying. Why does it assume I actually clicked on London. So I want to know how many Marks and Spencer shops there are in Oz. This is a shopping site, so it just gives me the option of buying stuff in Australian dollars. Oh, I can't. I won't bother then. But I thought this information was easily found. Yeah. Is there Marks and Spencers in Australia? British retailer Marks and Spencer has launched a new online store to target Australian online shoppers, but says there are no plans to open a bricks and mortar store in Australia. Australia is already one of M&S's largest online markets based on customers using its international delivery service. So Australians don't have an M&S. I think that's very sad. Plenty of Marks and Spencers in the Far East, I hear a few of them have closed down, but I don't know. It's a bit like, you're somewhere near civilization when you see an M&S shop, not in the UK, and you sort of think that you can't be in too bad a place if you're somewhere in the West and you can find an Indian takeaway or a Chinese takeaway, even if they may not be much good. So, I suppose these are the signs of civilization, shops. I know certain high street shops in the UK would be a kind of a measure of whether your town's cool or not cool. So, once upon a time, it used to be Pizza Express, that your village or town is, worth the trouble of Pizza Express locating there, and it was a sign of being up and coming. I think that's the idea. But apparently Oz is not worthy of having an M&S shop after all this time. So everybody who has a sort of mild cold or cough or think they've got COVID-19, and then they'll have to go and make their will. And everyone will be suffering from hypochondria, I'm sure. Perhaps I shouldn't stream at this time. I know she's fast asleep. That woman. I think I'm a typhoid Mary Corona carrier right now. Well, I don't know. What are you going to do? You're going to test? Get yourself tested? Or just infect everybody in your home? I mean, you already have infected them if you're, So, you hope you have it. That's all right then. I think they should pay some of us to say, well, you want to take a chance? You want to get it? Well, come and get it then. And then we all go, and then, if we get it, they'll look after us. That kind of thing. And we would have to be sort of specially chosen from a range of ages, from, I suppose we can't, our parents shouldn't volunteer us for, these experiments if we were infants or toddlers or children, but maybe from adult onwards we should say, I'll volunteer to catch it, and then if I catch it, then you can look after me, and yeah, so I do it, I think, if they asked. Anyway, it's my idea, so I suppose if they asked me, I couldn't very well say no. But anyway, I thought I'd share with you my wonderful morning, during which I kind of chortled away at happy discoveries when people say such nice things about me. And Doooovid said, well, he didn't actually mention my name, but it's sort of when he said it, it's like, well, I've done it. It's me. I did it already. I've done it. I've been doing it, and that's why nobody wants to talk to me. That's why I'm a victim of my own success. It's like, being the best boxer in the world, and everybody knows you're the best boxer in the world, and they won't fight you, so you can't prove it. They'll only fight each other because, they don't want to get all knocked out in the first round. So, Doooovid was basically saying, you've got to win the debate in your own terms. You've got to prove your proposition, really. So whatever you are, arguing about, you've got to prove prove your claims. And then the harder thing to do is to say that the other person, according to his or her own principles, religion, or political ideology, should do what you say because, well, So anyway, I've done all that. Unfortunately, nobody has noticed because they've all kind of shut their ears, shut their eyes, run out of the room, pretend it never happened, told each other never to speak to me, and pretend I never said what I said, and hoping, no doubt, that I would die of COVID-19 before before my genius is recognised. And it is amongst nationalists who say that. And I've got a bit of evidence I could give you, Mark Collett saying, no, you will never be able to come on our streams, you horrible woman, with your silly idea. And he'd say things like, I've put to bed your silly secular quranism. And I said, where? And then he wouldn't tell me. And I said, which stream is this? I can't find it. And he just went all quiet. And then somebody popped up and said, yeah, I think I heard him last night. And then of course the stream was deleted, no doubt because it would have attracted a hate speech strike, I suppose. So these are dreadful, dishonest, irrational, immoral people, aren't they? When you can't even admit the truth, and concede like, well, I said the earth was flat, but now I've discovered it's round, and you said all along that it was round, and I was wrong. I'll concede, I'll say the earth is round now, but not a bit of it. These awful, immoral, dishonest, illogical people would just say, well, you can't make us. You can't make us say what you want us to say, which is to acknowledge the truth and point out the obvious and concede that you have won the argument. So they're basically saying, unless I use force, I won't win the debate. And this is a terrible thing because obviously something much worse than me will come along to, well, COVID is bad enough. Who knows what else whoever sent me has in mind. I've put it so clearly. I've really, really won all the arguments. I have, haven't I? And they still won't concede because I don't have an army. And they're all doing that, all the way from the liberal establishment, the rabbis, the church, the Muslims, and the alt-right. They all do that to me. So, we have to acknowledge that nobody has any principles. And, it's like, okay, you have no principles. You're this sociopath, this psychopath, and you don't care. You don't care that you don't have any principles. You tell everyone you have no principles and you laugh. And even such a person, even such an animal, I guess we were allowed to say that animals don't have any principles because we can't see how they could have any principles unless it's something predictable that they always do. Like, an animal will always, seek food when it's hungry. It'll look after its young up to a certain point, and it will do certain things that is not completely selfish and all about eating and hunting and killing, and fighting other animals for food. It may do other things like look after its offspring, its cubs, its chicks, and all that. But then obviously you think, well, they have to do these things, or because it's instinct, because otherwise they just wouldn't exist if you just had your young and just basically abandoned it. Then it would never grow up because it wouldn't be protected from other things, from eating it or disease or exposure or whatever. So instinctively we ourselves want to survive, and we want anything that comes from us, our offspring, to survive. It's called parenting. But humans, more is expected of humans. It's not enough for humans to bring up their offspring to adulthood and say, yeah, job done. Unless you're very, 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 very poor. But even if you're very, very, very poor, you would want to teach it something and hope that it will become a successful man or woman. So if it's a female, you hope that at least it gets married and produces grandchildren. And for sons, you hope that your son will be marriageable and will go on to have fine children who and you can take pride in your grandchildren, that kind of thing. So even then, so it's a kind of it's a mix of instinct and honor, I suppose. If you're going to have offspring, you might as well have good ones, and if you want them to be good, then you have to take a bit of trouble over them. And of course, life is more complicated for humans, and there's so much to choose from. How am I going to bring them up? Am I middle class, working class, upper class? Which school shall I send them to? Which friends shall I what kind of society will they mix in? And of course there's a lot of choice, and religion helps us make this choice. And of course those with religion will have a more distinct sense of their identity, I often wonder how I manage to stay so distinct when, of course, political activists are a dime a dozen. I do have a sense of my own value. I do know that my ideas are unique, as well as supremely powerful, and that's why I'm such a victim of my own success that no one will debate with me. I mean, David Duke wouldn't debate with me, Mark Collett won't debate with me, Millennial Woes won't let me on his streams. Mark Collett, apart from one appearance, won't come. He's too big now. He's too big now to come on my little stream, but then he won't let me on his. I'm actually going to say he's not racist, because I have heard that he's allowed, I mean, not racist in the sense that he won't let any non-white person appear on his channel. So, I mean, I can't even use that. I just say, I can't say, oh, it's because, I'm not white that he won't let me appear on his stream. It's for another reason. It's because he has no answer against my claims. And that's why he wants to suppress me and deprive my ideas of the oxygen of publicity. In fact, I seem to remember that the last time he was on my stream, I think it was 2017, you can find it on my main channel, he actually said I wasn't to talk about secular quranism. So I guess, it's kind of, my secular quranism is a kind of bogeyman. And you would have thought, after all these years, decade, it was first blogged about in 2009, and you would have thought they'd come up with something better by now if my idea is so stupid and mad. But they haven't got anything. Even now, they're still, accelerationism, meaning sitting around playing video games and wanking to porn and waiting for the world to come to an end, whereupon you will kill and kick people out like you do in your video games, and triumph over all the other races, or some such idea. I don't know. I mean, I often ask them, like, what are you going to do after you've killed and kicked them out? What religion are you going to have? What sort of, what kind of laws are you going to have? And I don't get any answer from them. I just don't. So, and for them to deliberately suppress my ideas is, rather than conceding and saying, right, well, I guess religion serves a purpose, and when our ancestors were properly Christian and didn't go around having illegitimate offspring and enjoying free love, perhaps they did accomplish a lot more than we did, but not a bit of it. They just pretend I haven't spoken, and they don't know what I'm talking about, and it's so dishonourable, isn't it? I mean, why do they do that? And you think, well, I suppose you can work out that, they don't want to upset their subscribers, and then they might go away. And the thing is, I don't care about my subscribers as long as I punch the message through again and again and again. And thank you, people in the chat who keep coming back. I think really for certain people you should disdain to, you're not going to be led by the people in the chat, are you? You have a message and therefore you promote it, whatever the people in the chat say. I mean, particularly when they can't win the argument, they're all a bit gaga and hate-filled, and they can't really explain why they hate certain groups, and they just want to keep hating them, and, it's some, genetic, environmental thing, who knows. So, So this is the tactic that they have evolved amongst themselves. So it would suggest that they're not really interested in advancing the argument. They're not interested in self-criticism or even any challenge or questioning of their political positions. They just want to hang on to their position, whether it is true or logical, because that's all they know. The ignoramuses, and I guess if you've sort of grown up hating Jews, non-whites, and there's Muslims, and you're in your 40s, you're not going to say, oh, perhaps I was wrong, perhaps something else, some underlying social cause is the reason for the marginalisation of people in my class, or something like that. But no, it's always the Jews. So I do understand that people hold dear their own beliefs. Their own beliefs become sacred because, well, that's all they knew. That's all they know. That's all they've, believed since the beginning. So then if you challenge them, they'll complain about being, gaslit. So you won't be able to shift them. But then you think, well, I'll go higher. I'll go to educated, intelligent, rational, honourable people. And then, to your horror, you realise there are none. And what about your fellow YouTubers? Well, they're just as bad, really. I mean, occasionally they might come up with something true and wise, and then they forget about it. They're all hobbyists. They're too afraid to speak the truth, and they're afraid of a full-on challenge, and they're too invested in their own silly ideas to allow you to challenge them in a rational way. So I'm afraid that that this rot is permeates the higher and lower echelons of society as well. So it does look that the West is pretty much doomed. It's very disappointing with Stefan Molyneux that he can't. It's not that I haven't been in touch with him before. I've actually spoken to him twice. And after he wouldn't let me on again, I was actually quite persistent, and he persistently ignored my persistence. And then yesterday I saw his thing with JF, and it was a very dull debate, because obviously, if you're a moral absolutist, you're going to say, well, these are the principles, these are my universal principles, so you can see what that they're true or valid or something, and of course JF, who is a nihilist, knew that he couldn't do that without losing the argument, so he kept denying everything, so it never got any further. And of course, the whole way the debate was put was just so completely stupid, because it'll be it would be like two children saying, mine's better than yours, no it isn't, mine's better, no it isn't, mine's better, and it was basically that, and very, very tedious to listen to. And really, the problem was this. Actually, it reminded me of a argument my mother had, and I'm trying to remember the subject, but it was okay. I'll just distill it to one or other of us saying, that, sorry, so one of us would say, but it is this way, and then the other would be saying, but it shouldn't be, and then, but it is this way, but it shouldn't be, it is this way, but it shouldn't be. And then it was sort of later, it was just so, that was just so annoying, and, you know, you kind of saw that the other person had a point, but you know that if you repeated your position, the other person couldn't get past it. And of course, it was the typical example of comparing apples and oranges. You know, it's like, well, if you like apples, then you'll prefer the apple, but if you like oranges, you'll prefer the orange. So who is to say which is better, kind of thing. And of course, the whole thing was wrong, and you just sort of listened to nearly 2 hours of it, you know, because you felt it's part of your job, kind of thing, or I do. And you said, well, you know, obviously the whole thing was wrong, because in the olden days there would be a proposition, and then the person putting forward the proposal would be the proposer, and the other person arguing against it would be the opposer. Simple, isn't it? And then, but anyway, that was how they did it. They did it in a really sort of retarded way. And of course, I would love to talk to Stefan again, but he won't talk to me. And I know he won't talk to me because I've been in touch with him before, and I actually, let me see, I emailed him and said, look, actually I didn't, it wasn't him that I emailed, it was somebody called Mark DeMarco or something, it's his assistant. So, hold on there, I can find it for you. So this was sent to him on 1st of September 2017, and it's on the Voice of Reason blog. My invitation to Stefan Molyneux for a debate on the logic of theocracy. To Michael DeMarco, 1st September 2017. Hi Michael, I would like to challenge Stefan to a debate on the logic of theocracy, quoting his own words. And I'll tell you what he said. Should law conform to morality, and if so, what kind of morality should it conform to and why? And I was on a show with him, and what he did say to me was that, because we even got around to discussing a theocracy. So, this is what I wrote. Stefan Molyneux on how theocracy could be libertarian and result in a minimal state. So this is Stefan Molyneux saying, when laws are founded on religious dogma, then they tend not to multiply beyond all reason because they are limited by the fact that if the religious dogma does not ask for certain things to be enforced, then it is tough to make the case that it should be. When religion is very strong, the laws tend not to multiply. So that would be a good argument for theocracy, saying, well, whatever laws you're going to get under this theocracy, it's not going to be added or subtracted to, because God has made them and he doesn't make mistakes, and all we need to do is exactly right. We might we might make mistakes of interpretation, but basically, this is the Quran, and we just have to interpret it right. And he goes on to say, the Ten Commandments versus the Federal Registry, which has hundreds and thousands of new regulations every year. So yeah, the Federal Registry, I guess it's some Canadian thing. When you get rid of the big laws, you don't end up with no laws, Stefan continues to say. You end up with an infinity of little laws. If people obey moral rules, you don't need a big government. If people respected the family, we wouldn't need a family court. If people respected property, we wouldn't need a criminal court. So this was what Stefan said. So I thought I'd start it off, and my email went on to say, my first question to him is as follows. Can you refute the arguments at arguing for a theocracy? So I basically posted a link where all the arguments are, and it's dated the 22nd of July 2017, entitled The Moral Imperative of Theocracy. The purpose of morality is to maintain group solidarity and the existence of the group. All the Abrahamic faiths promote patriarchal moral values which feminists wish to subvert because they want to destroy the patriarchy. Patriarchy cannot exist without marriage, and nationalism cannot exist without patriarchy. Nationalism cannot exist without patriarchy because a matriarchy, by definition, cannot produce enough good, strong, moral men to challenge and overthrow the matriarchy. Is Philip Davis MP alone enough to challenge and overthrow our degenerate matriarchy? Was Keith Joseph and Lord Glassman? I rest my case. I won't bore you with the actual stories, but if you go to the post, you will find links explaining the story of Philip Davis MP, as well as Sir Keith Joseph and Lord Glassman. I continue. Everything about feminism undermines marriage and the family. The success of feminism is based on the success with which it brides men with extramarital sex from immoral women. A patriarchy is a society which prioritizes the preferences of married fathers. A matriarchy is a society which prioritizes the preferences of unmarried mothers. Feminist beliefs are based on gender equality in active defiance of truth, reason, and morality. Feminism cannot be termed an alternative form of morality, and is in fact the antithesis of morality itself, because its practices would lead to the disintegration of the group, nation, or civilization infected by this virus or cancer. If what is satanic is rebellion against God and his prescribed morality for us, then feminism can be said to be satanic for this reason alone, because it undermines the eugenic practice of marriage through condoning the practice of dysgenic fornication that causes widespread bastardy. You will not be able to find a single feminist who is not against the practice of slut-shaming and who does not regard fornication as a self-evident human right. All the Abrahamic faiths treat fornication as a sexual offence. The purpose of religion is to maintain morality, making the exercise of maintaining morality logically and necessarily a public matter. Therefore, morality must by definition be a matter of state, because it can only be done through law and politics. The logic of theocracy beckons. And then I quote Confucius, who said, "The people are the grass and the law the wind. When the wind blows, the grass will bend." So I think I've made my point quite effectively then, but he ignored me, and then he wrote his silly book, which just took, had so many acronyms and So, yeah, I guess he's not going to be talking to me either. So that means I won't be able to win the debate against Stefan Molyneux. And there's no point arguing with JF, because he's already said he's a nihilist. But, you know, I'm a very forgiving woman, and I thought that, you know, somebody with moral principles will be better than somebody who says he doesn't give a damn about moral principles, like JF. So what I said to him under his video was as follows. I'm going to read them out to you. I would like to challenge you with a proposition. A one-party theocracy is the antithesis of the status quo. Therefore, a one-party theocracy is a solution to the problems of Western government. And then I continued. I actually thought the debate was a waste of time. I imagine that the Tower of Babel was built on the word salads of J.F. Gariepy and others of his ilk. And of course I was thinking of Jen Shaw. So there were many references to rape in that debate that Stefan had with JF. I referred to it and I said, it is logically impossible to rape a woman who commands you to rape her. As for whether there could be a rule where women are routinely raped, this would only happen in war, when a country is invaded by marauding soldiers, when people expect this sort of thing to happen. It is unthinkable that there would ever be a rule amongst men that women are routinely raped in peacetime, since to allow that to happen to the women of other men would mean that you would allow that to happen to your own women too. It is unthinkable that anyone owning property would agree to the theft of their own property unless the concept of communal property were to take hold, which requires rules and their enforcement. The no-hide laws are the universal minimum standard of morality. And then I suggest a should or shouldn't debate would have been more productive than a what the fuck are you talking about debate, which was kind of what the Molyneux and JF debate resembled, really. They couldn't agree on the definition of morality, and that was why it went awry. Morality is a system of rules designed to keep the group together and apart from others. JF was basically saying that he subscribed to no moral system on any permanent basis. If he felt he had to kill you, steal from you, or commit sexual offences on you or your women, he would do so if he felt the circumstances justified it, or if he felt he could get away with it. JF was basically saying that he subscribed to no moral system or on any permanent basis. Okay, did I read it again? Sorry. Now all we have to do is decide for ourselves who we would rather choose as our leader. So on the question of universally preferable behaviours, universal means applicable. I think Stefan should have said, you know, when he was being pushed for a definition, that you know, the applicability of those principles would apply to all decent and rational human beings. So I finally say, may I suggest you frame the rematch in a form of a leadership contest? Then we will have no doubt who will be the winner. So that's what I said. I'm sure he'll ignore me. Korean man says, Marx and Richard Spencer. So, one final thing is to talk you through what Doooovid said about me. He was very kind, really. He didn't mention my name, but well, I think it applies to me, you know. So basically, Doooovid was saying that you don't I don't actually have the right quote. Maybe I can find it for you and play it so it's more fun. Okay, I think I can find it, so I'll do that for you. Wait a minute. Oh, you know, I just heard that Angela Merkel has gone into self-quarantine because she's got the virus. I'm sorry, I just found it so funny. I laughed like a drain. It just means we hate our politicians so much. Or me and people like me just hate them so much. Okay, let me see if I can find it for you, and then it'll be more fun to listen to. So few people come to see me, but I'm a victim of my own success, aren't I? Oh, what am I doing wrong? I'm trying to move it to the thing. Oh, yeah. I think it's at 335, but I may be wrong, so there might be a bit of faffing around.
Well, what I'm saying for a full knockout is saying that, well, saying to uphold this thing, like that my system is complete, like, like I upheld my system, I defended against all of your critiques and attacks, that my system is coherent, and to show that even according to your framework, that actually your framework better fits into my framework, and that everything that you say, that even according to your worldview, from the way you've justified your system, that I'm correct. And so that's much more difficult to do. But it's saying, like, so just to, the person's like, well, I'm skeptical of your worldview, and so I defended my worldview. But not only that, the much more difficult aspect is shown even from your own point of view, your own worldview, you should still admit I'm right.
Well, if the axioms are...
Okay, so that was a bit I was thinking of. And really, I have satisfied, that. I've proved my claim, and I've said, according to your own rules, you should be doing what I want you to do, which is to adopt secular quranism. So this means governments governing in the national interest should support secular quranism because it is divine civic nationalism. Muslims should support secular quranism because it is a new school of Sharia as interpreted by me. C. Diaspora Jews should support secular quranism because it is Noahide observant, and Israeli Jews should support secular quranism because it is technically a theocracy. Christians should support secular quranism because it is in conformity with the Ten Commandments. Hindus should support secular quranism because there is nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of Hinduism. Buddhists should support secular quranism because there is nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of Buddhism. Liberals, conservatives, too, should support secular quranism because there's nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of liberalism and conservatism. Libertarians should support secular quranism because there is nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of libertarianism, since what we ought to have is liberty after all the necessary laws are in place. The Chinese Communist Party should support secular quranism because there is nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of socialism with Chinese characteristics. The US should support secular quranism because the First Amendment is based on Chapter 2, verse 256 of the Quran. nationalists should support secular quranism because there is nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of either ethno or civic nationalism, since Judaism is divine ethno-nationalism and Islam divine civic nationalism. Presumably, this is why there is a boycott on me and my streams. Mark Collett has actually said to me that neither he nor his associates will ever have me on their streams because he already knows none of them can use truth, logic, or morality to defeat any of my arguments. Church of Entropy should support secular quranism because there is nothing in it that is inconsistent with the principles of entropism. According to Church of Entropy, it doesn't matter who has the sounder argument. The winner is the one who appears to have won. And I'm saying I have won against Church of Entropy because she imposes draconian acts of censorship on me, for example by refusing to have me on Week in Review, hiding me in her live chat as well as deleting my comments, while I allow her to on my streams to post in my live chat, and I never delete her comments. I even allow her to be horribly rude to me on my streams because I am a patient and long-suffering woman who cares about white people and wants to save them from their degeneracy to the point of martyrdom. Listen to Church of Entropy telling me to shut up 3 times on my own stream and refusing to let me tell Spacepan about the no-hide laws. Game, set and match to Claire Core. Now shall I play her telling me to shut up 3 times? Would that be fun? Would you enjoy that? Is there anybody in the chat now? Have you all gone? Well, the 4 people watching now. I think for the sake of completeness, I will just play you the bits when she tells me to shut up. But what is priceless was Spacepan's expression throughout, really. Bless his heart, he was trying to keep the peace and everything. Let me set it up for you. Okay, let me unmute the thing. Sorry, my computer's going a little slow again. So it's a Jewish idea. Okay, sorry, that's not it. It's slowed right down. there are universal laws and they should be enforced, right? That's what he was saying.
Plus the dispute resolution, like the.
Well, of course, it has to be enforced in some way, and he's.
John, shut up! Don't you understand that the property rights disputes are going to be very complicated, and that.
Okay, first time. Let's go to the second time. The argument and what the argument was about. No, it has no relevance to politics.
You're asking me for
I really think Spacepan is here and he doesn't really want to listen.
Shut up! Shut up for a second.
Shut up, Jen. You shut up.
Here's an example of why you suck at logic. I've never once heard you make a fucking ever analyze any logical statement ever. And you always try to drag it back to valid versus sound arguments, which, as I've just demonstrated, is a completely worthless distinction.
You haven't demonstrated anything. Okay, third time. Have you said all you want to say about this? And then both agree that it's ended. And then there probably won't be that many people can go through it and say, yeah, I think Spacepan won or Claire won or whatever.
Well, another way you could do it too is you could even do the parts of the debate in video response form, and then that way you have as much time
I just hate all this
media.
video shit because it just takes so long. Really, it's like I've been talking to Vincent, and it's like he's not interested unless it's sort of showtime, and it's all talky, and nobody's listening anyway. The morons in the chat are just not listening. They're just gossiping and whatever they're doing.
Oh, shut up!
No, you shut up,
Yeah,
Jen.
Alan,
You shut
Alan
up,
doesn't
Jen.
like Ayn Rand.
Why you always got to bitch about the people in the chat?
Because I can, and it's my stream.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not actually helping progress the
No, because they're
conversation.
stupid. I don't care.
Making
I
it
don't care what
complicated.
they think, and they like it that I don't care.
Like, stop and diffuse things.
You're interrupting me. I'm making a point, and
You hate logic.
I'm making the point that the quickest way to resolve this, where everybody can follow, and if they don't understand, they can add their questions, is to do it on Ask FM. On any, because they have this new thing, they can do Okay, so basically, there you go. I have to put up with her. For the greater good. For the sake of Western civilization, it seems. Anyway, I hope I've explained my position reasonably clearly about why I've won all my debates, and everybody's saying, oh, we're bored now, Claire. We're bored with you winning all the debates. So we'll treat debates as redundant and make sure that only irrelevant considerations are considered, that irrational forms of reasoning are exercised, and all morality ignored. So that's how they roll. And of course, you can't expect success from this kind of leadership. They don't deserve to win for all the obvious reasons that should be clear to you now. So that's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you for coming by.